and R8, and then R11, and then we had a starting position right back here. So this would be say a 4 for us,
yep, let's just
or whoever. Okay, so what we then added was kind of goals in the wide areas here, just as an incentive for our team, and then we kind of designed a point system around those goals.
Okay, so let's just stop there and say, rightio. So we've got our 2 banks of 4. Any comments from the group regarding the players of our team, the team we're playing? Anyone have significantly, fundamentally anything different, or would question the validity of that?
Was the 2 involved? That was right. The 2.
Was
the 2?
So the 2 and the 5?
Yeah. No, we didn't.
What we actually did was we kind of said the playing area would be here, and we said the start position would be just outside of the playing area, so he'd play in. But we said we thought that we didn't really need the 2 and the 5 fit us, because of the players that we wanted on the ball, switching the ball, and we're looking for the speed of the switch. So having the 2 and 5 there, we felt would only slow down that. Although it could be something that's introduced later when you're looking at actually penetrating in those wide areas.
Comments from the floor?
Playing against. Usually, I mean, if you're switching it through, most switching, if you're faced with a compact opponent, the first move of the switch would be going backwards, which would, to me, say you've got to involve your back 4.
Okay, so you're saying that you'd have the 2 involved?
And the thing with switching around the back is, are you doing it in
Okay, so you'd have the 2 and the 5 involved?
The original problem involved the 2 and the 5, so why would you have
Picture of the problem involved the 2 and the 5.
Yeah.
I think there's something there. What was in the who? Who was in the who?
The 2 had the 2.
So he was in the picture. Now, if he wasn't in the picture, I'd say, yeah, maybe we can... I'd say, but if you wanted to really replicate the problem that we saw, I think that's a valid point. The picture we took, the 2 was in there.
And fundamentally,
Plus we're
without the
playing-
2 and the 5, it's 8v6 there.
Yeah, but they're not pressing. They're banks of 4. They're not trying to. We're trying to. The objective is to try and move the ball from one side of the field to the other so that we can penetrate. It doesn't matter.
We might re-switch again, back.
But Paul, if I got 2 organised blocks of 4, I can defend against your 10, let alone your 6.
Yeah, I know, but but they're not like in that game. Did anyone press? Did any of the midfield 4 press? Anyone? No, they just sat deep and blocked us, and that's the whole point. We can't penetrate a block. It's not. If people pressed us, we'd be able to play through and around them, and it would be a different problem.
When we looked at it, we saw the spaces, being here and in here. So we could get players on time and space in those areas. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely have the 2 in there, I think, certainly. But for what we'd be encouraging, we wouldn't be asking the 2 to get involved in the switch of the ball.
Okay, here's a question. So the session's going very well in this scenario, and we're getting it shifted across, the ball comes out there, and it quickly goes out there. Who can see a potential player action? When the ball's switched out there and he has controlled possession, time and space,
An overlap. Yeah.
maybe I'm looking at my script going, I reckon if I've got him there and we do switch and he comes in there, so I'm thinking solutions, mate. He might actually form part, maybe not, let's just say, not right, not wrong, either. Maybe, yes, he is part of the switch. Maybe he's not. But maybe when we get there, we've got to still, I know that's the switch, but we don't stop coaching there. If you're getting the success, you're not going to go, oh, beautiful, I achieved the session objective. I'll get more out of this session, even better. I'll not only get the positioning of the 6 and 8 and the ball speed and all that, mate, but I might get some more out of this. I'll get some overlaps. I think realistically that might be part of the solution to the problem. And then you as a coach work out, and there's no right or wrong here. This is what I gain by having the 2 and 5 in my session, and that's what I lose when I don't have it. I do this and I do that, and you're the coach. Your big problem may be this bloke. I just need to focus on him. It's not going to come through here. This is my biggest problem. The 6 and 8 are the who. They need help. Leave the 2 and 5 out. Because their body positioning is shit. Whatever it may be. But you might say, to be honest, I'd prefer it comes via there, goes via there, and right? So you've got to start to think through that. What do I gain by having him in there? What do I lose? And then you start to think, in my team, this is what's going to deliver the best outcome, right? Based on the football problem we saw out there, I think that was an extremely important point. In our picture, the 2 was in it, and the 2 was subsequently part of the problem. I'd say he then needs to be part of the problem to replicate that picture. Because if you're not replicating the picture, I'm not sure that you're going to replicate the problem. And if you can't replicate the problem, how do you fix it? So that would be my only comment there. He was in the picture, even though I'd say there's validity to both points there. And possibly I'm looking as a coach beyond thinking, oh, mate, I might be able to get an overlap here, if it happens. If it happens. So we'll keep going. Good discussion. Very good discussion. Keep going. Yep, James?
Okay, cool. So we wanted to then encourage the attacking team to play through these wide areas and obviously to score goals. So we try to come up with a reasonably simple point system.
Do you want to go through that point system?
Yeah,
for us?
so if the ball was played through and we maintained possession through either of these gates, it was 1 point to the attacking team. If we scored at any point, in any way, it was 3 points.
In the goal.
In the goal, in here,
Okay.
yep. And then if we played through the gate and scored from that, it was 5 points. So it's just to incentivise trying to create and score through these areas, because we've identified those are the areas that we'd like to go through. And then obviously if we're aiming to attack down here, moving the ball, then we should get that realistic situation where the block shuffles across and then we get the picture to go out the other side.
So there's a clever thing there done by this group. Who can identify what it is? Come on, Charlie,
More
just-
points from coming from wide areas, which is more.
Okay, so the use of what? The use of what? Incentive using some conditions. So instead of giving them an intervention, this group's come up with and said, if we put that there, they might straight away try to get the ball in behind there. Perfect. Just through a game condition, I'm getting coaching. Not through the stop, stand still, you've got to try to get in behind the opposition defence. Mate, just through a condition, right? And I think it's clever. And the use of that, and as you get more experience, you'll see the more conditions you can use and come up with, the less coaching and stopping you have to do, which means they're playing more. And if they're playing more, they're getting more chance to solve the football problem and more repetition. So it's a clever way of getting an outcome without having to actually say anything. So if you get the ball in through these gates, in behind the opposition defence, you get a point. And the play's going, okay, so if I'm the 6 here, or I'm the 7, what am I trying to do immediately? Trying to get a point. So what do? I'm trying to get myself in a position where I'm facing forward, mate. And he's trying to make runs in beyond there. If the block there and this gate's blocked because of the 2 deep defensive blocks, this guy might go, that gate's blocked. Whoa, I know where the other gate isn't. He might then do fundamentally a lot quicker because there's incentive to go there quicker. Whereas in the match, there wasn't any incentive to go there. Not the match was just happening, but he's trying to incentivise and maybe fix the ball speed by saying, get it in that gate, son. Right, that's clever. Joe?
James, I was that really good number 6 that was out there, you know that?
I didn't notice.
Well, now, after a while, mate, what incentive are you giving me as a blue team? What do I do when I win the ball?
So what we're looking for the blue team to do is win it and as quickly as possible play to the start player who's also the target for the Blues.
Do I get a point?
Yeah, you get 3 points.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fundamentally something, right? You've got to give. Why do you have to give both teams the objective, even though you're only an objective or incentive, even though you're only coaching one of them?
To keep them interested, so it looks real.
Yeah, you don't have to give them. It can still look real.
Give them something to play for.
Gives them something to play for. So you can only solve a football problem in this particular case. If you want to solve this football problem and really teach these guys how to play 2 deep defensive blocks of 4, what's fundamental to solve the football problem and improve their performance against Australia on the weekend in a World Cup qualifier? What is fundamental to the blue team? Let's call the 2 banks of 4 as the blue team. What's fundamental?
Keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something else.
Having an
Structure.
Huh?
Having
Play
an
the
aim.
game.
Having a game, yeah.
Having an aim.
Having an aim. Why though?
Because that's what the structure of football has.
It's basic, and I'll just give you the answer. Mate, do you want them to defend? Do you want them to defend realistically or half-assed? Because against Australia's going to be going for it, mate. They are going to be shuffling across hard, pressing. So if you don't actually recreate that environment, it's false. It's false for this 7. It's false if this guy doesn't fly out there, try to win the ball. I see it always, all over Australia. I coach the attacking team, but I'm coaching, or you're coaching the attacking team, and they're playing against, and they're trying to fix his first touch. On a game, on Sunday, mate, he's got less time, less speed. You're trying to replicate realism, right? So the incentive for me to go and close this bloke and win the ball is what? What's the biggest incentive for any player? Why do they play? Why do players play? To win games. How do you win them, Mick?
Scoring goals.
Score goals, that's it.
Or more the opposition.
So give me the freaking opportunity to score a goal, mate, and I'll give you everything. I'll go and chase that prick. I'll go and get the ball because I want to score. But if you keep giving me nothing, I'll win the ball and kick it back to Joey in goals, I ain't going to run, get stuffed. No chance. I'm not going to do it. You saw them. They gave me everything, but in the end there was no incentive. I kept start the ball at green and they're going, oh shit, what's the point of winning it? Every time we win it, it goes back to the green anyway. It's a fact, right? So there's an incentive there. What about the positioning of this? I want you to explain to me why you didn't put him there and there.
To replicate number 9, furthest forward pass.
Can we see that? So if you put this guy, so let's just say, for example, the Blues, the Crosses win the ball, and he's there. Or let's just say you put 2 goals there. What's the issue with putting 2 goals out there? Oh, right. Yeah. So let's just say it's a 1-4-4, and we win the ball, and I say you've got to score in those goals.
We want to get him out.
You won't. Haven't heard from you, mate.
It changes the positioning of the defensive team.
Let's just say they've won it, and I'm coaching them to play that pass there.
What's the transition moment?
You're coaching a transition moment, which is hidden learning in this session because we're not, but they're transitioning where?
To go directly through, they're going wide instead of going direct.
But why can't I go wide?
Because there's no flows, you've only got one
Well,
player.
yeah, well, I play 1-4-4-2.
He's the nearest.
Right, let's just say, and the 9, and this is why James has said put him here, because then let's just say in a 1-4-4-2, the 9 and 10 are there. They're not out there. So if you condition this player to play the ball out there, on the weekend he'll win it and he'll look up and then, oh shit, there's no one there, mate. Robbie Cruz ain't there, Robbie Cruz is there. So, you know, it's hidden learning. We're not coaching them, but we can improve their performance. Right? So be clever. We want to try to get as much as we can out of the session, and that's why James has stuck him here, because that's So win the ball, bang, play it there. Yeah, that's good. That's a good behaviour. That'll happen on the weekend, even though they're not there. So you must be clever, right?
It also, for our team that we're coaching, their transition moment is then to shut these middle options rather than to shut wide options.
There you go. So as soon as we've lost the ball, you want your team to block a forward pass into central areas. Hidden learning. Tick. Didn't have to spend a whole session on it. We may get it out of this session, even though we're working on wide, switching the point of attack in wide areas. Right? Any other questions or observations?
Also, if the defensive team have got those goals out wide, they're less inclined to recreate the problem of there being that tight, compact unit. They're going to be pushed.
There's a comment. Who controls the shape? Who controlled the shape of the Blues this morning?
It was just a lot of experience in the back four.
I think it's the coach's responsibility. Right, at the end of the day. So even in that transition moment, I know what you're saying. You may lose that shape, and that's fine because it's a transition moment. You might want this guy, as soon as he's won it, this guy to go forward. Which brings me to when I said get the ball back to the Greens, who was there, my number 3? What was the key thing I told you before we started? How often do I see it? Ball's playing. Start from here. All players generally just switch off. He'd get it and he'd just play it to the easiest option. Right? Is it real? So I always said you must start and restart from up here. So there's got to be a start and a restart point on your session plan in your game training. Where do the sessions start? Where do they restart? If it goes out for throwing, do you want to have throw-ins or not? We want that detail in there. But it was critical that I waited for the shape to fix itself and correct itself. Because otherwise you're fixing the wrong picture.
The group talked about that as well, discussing whether we wanted to put a rule on the back four about having a certain amount of players across one side of the pitch when the ball was over there. So you could almost say, if they're attacking this goal on this side, then let's get 2 players defending that goal. So you fall back and then you could have your centre back on the edge there. Or saying the whole of the back four had to be past this line when the ball's over there. But we thought something you'd be aware of, but we'd see if it was happening and only introduce it if it was needed.
It's a good discussion. Yeah, very valid. Any other observations, comments, considerations?
On that point there where you're going to restrict players from coming across, doesn't that become a bit non-game realistic? Isn't that hidden
It may. It may, but
yeah.
at what point could you use it? At what point could you use it? And we spoke about the S word. You're not getting enough success and you've got to make it, you've got to step it down, right? You've got to step it down. Maybe you've got to bring in a condition to give you some success because it's just maybe a bit too difficult for them to.
And also this is the game training component, so the problem's got to be, this is the main learning stage. So
it is, and you're trying to replicate it, but on occasions you might have to dumb it down because you're not getting, and then it might be, I don't know what the conditions could be, but you can work through it.
I don't think I made the point very well then. So the point I was making, and I think this was the point made here, was that with the goals here, if the back four decided to defend like that, do you know what I mean? Or if the ball's here, for example, and they go, we'll always leave one of our players over here. So that's when Ivan's saying that's the coach's responsibility to remind them that they're part of a back four. And what we discussed is you could then put the rule in or the guideline that the whole of the back four has to be over a certain point. So it's just a guideline for the back four as well. So that keeps that realistic.
Okay, and I'll tell you one thing, that this thing is managing shape. And have you been introduced through chapter 6 to 10, the checklist? Have you seen the checklist in 6 to 10? Yes? Have a look at the key thing there, shape, and it's the most common reason sessions fail. Not fail assessments, yes, but fail to achieve because you're not replicating and managing the shape of not only your team, but the opposition team, and that has to be real, right? So if you've got him there, the first question I'll say is, will Luke Wilkshire be there on Saturday in a World Cup qualifier when the ball's on this side? And if your answer's no, then why is he there now? Simple. Always try to relate it to the realism, to the match. Right? Any other points, Joe, James?
Well, if we go back to 2 and 5 discussion, so when you consider for the blue team's task here, and it will be 9 against 6 if we don't have the 2 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that we're giving 3 points to them to get the ball to the middle. And it's a bit out of realism to me. So
You gain something, you lose something. I know what I'd gain. If I did this, I guarantee you there would be so much switching. You get a lot of repetition. What won't you get in a 9v6 in this scenario?
A lot of penetration.
A lot of penetration. But James has identified, for example, let's just say, he just needs to freaking get on the ball and look that way and whack it. The ball will come back here and he'll go. So I lose my penetration, but I get plenty of switching because that's the only way away from pressure. Bang, 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 bang. It's going to do that. Maybe that's what you want to get out of it.
Couldn't your number 2 do that? So you talked about your number 2 earlier.
Yeah, it could do. And I think that's the point. That was the point here with our friend. That was the point there. He's saying that generally he's saying it might come back to the 2 as a bounce back first, and then we work the way around. Right? No right, no wrong. Based on our picture, though, we'd say the 2 and 5 need to be in there, but we're just working like the 6 and 8 might be your problem, like big time. They can't get their body positioning sorted. So there, the ball's always coming there, and he's like this, and you want him to get the ball there, and all you want to work on is get this, play it out there. I wouldn't want the 2 and 5 in there either.
That was the first.
That was our very first
the
thing.
first moment was exactly that. But then when we stopped it, the 2 was on the ball. We just wanted to get in there.
It's a great discussion. Like I said, it's the discussion which you take out of here, which is what is where you get all your football knowledge. We're trying to get you thinking in a certain scenario, and I think we've all got you now ticking over going, far out. Coaching's not as easy as I think you thought when you walked through the door the first time, and it's not, right? Rightio, so give a round of applause to James and his group. Wonderful. Okay, so based on